year 9 students. Okay, so understanding imagery. We'll come to another video on another online lesson. Today we'll talk about imagery, understanding imagery. Okay, we've spoken about this before. However, we're going to talk about it in depth this time, and we've spoken about the relationship between the characters and the readers. Okay, and point of view. Okay, in stories and in text. Today, we will talk more about imagery and what imagery creates in the audience head. Okay, very important. So before we move on, I want you to get your notebooks ready, your textbooks ready, and your pens as well. Write the title, off you go. We'll come back. Learning objectives. I'll explain the learning objectives to you to be able to recap the functions of metaphors, similes, and personifications. We will focus on these 3 literary devices today. Number 2, to be able to create vivid images in writing, you need to be able to create those vivid images where the reader imagines them when you talk about them, when you write them down. Number 3, to be able to understand the effect of using vivid images in writing. What is the effect on the reader? What did the audience feel when you use those vivid images through similes, metaphors, and personifications? Write these 3 learning objectives down. Off you go. We'll come back. Now, a starter activity is going to be about 2 sentences that I want you to read. I want you to read these 2 sentences and tell me what images are being created in the examples, okay? Number 1, the night is a dark blanket covering the buildings. You can see through that the picture. Number 2, the night is like a blanket covering the buildings. You can see that through the picture as well. So tell me what imageries are used here in these 2 sentences. Do that and write down the answers on the notebook. Off you go. Okay, that was a very easy starter, to be honest. Now the practice activity is going a little bit hard. Now create a metaphor and a simile of your own for each of the following examples. Number 1, extreme heat. Number 2, extreme cold. Number 3, extreme loneliness. Now create a metaphor and a simile, all right, for these 3 statements or examples. Extreme heat, I want a metaphor and a simile. Extreme cold, I want a metaphor and a simile. Extreme loneliness, I want a metaphor and a simile. Create these feelings of heat, cold, loneliness through a metaphor and a simile. Do that. You've got roughly 2 minutes. This is today's challenge. Off you go. Now, personification. Today we'll talk also about personification, not just metaphors and similes. Personification, I want you to try and remember what it means. We have spoken about the definition before. We've given plenty of examples, but I want you to try and remember what it means. Okay, write the definition on the notebook. If you remember what personification means after you write the title, write the definition on the notebook, and then we'll check it out later. Now look at the following examples. We've got 2 examples. One of them is Faye knocked on the door. Faye knocked on the door. And we've got the second example, the building seemed to bow low as the town's new hero approached. Okay, now what effects do they create for the reader? I want you to read these 2 sentences separately. Okay, and I want you to think and I want you to feel the effect that they create, do you understand? Because you are one of the readers, all right, and they must create an effect. Okay, so what effect do they create for the reader? Faye knocked on the door, number 1. Number 2, the building seemed to bow low as the town's new hero approached. Okay, so what do you think? What is the effect that these 2 sentences create on the reader? Okay, you've got roughly 2 minutes. Off you go. We'll come back. Now, exploring imagery in a text. We will read a text together. Okay, we will try to explore imagery. We try to find out what imagery is used in this text. Now, task one. We've got two tasks in this slide. Task one, read the extract from Hard Times, written by Charles Dickens, one of the greatest novels written. It's an American novel. On the following slide, you will find the text. Okay, from Hard Times. Draw or write any images or symbols that are created from the description. You can draw them or you can write them. You choose. Okay, you can draw the images that are created by the writer, or you can write the images that are created, or symbols. Okay, which images stood out and why? That's the answer that I want you to that's the question that I want you to answer. Okay, which images stood out and why? Okay, the task number two is going to be try to find the following: an example of a simile, an example of a metaphor, and three powerful words. Three words that are very powerful, can be adjectives sometimes, or emotive words, or adverbs, you understand? But they are powerful. They really help create effect and create and help the meaning, you understand, and create those vivid images. I won't say more because that's what you have to do and that's what you have to find. Next to each example, write down what the effect of this imagery is. If you give an example of a simile, tell me what effect does it have on the reader. If you find a metaphor, tell me what effect does it have on the reader. Okay, if you find those three powerful words, tell me what effect do they have on the reader. Okay, you've got 5 minutes to finish this task. Look at the text in the next slide. I'll turn off my webcam so that you can see the text. With my webcam, there you go, so that you can see the text now. Okay, when you finish this, get back, off you go. Okay, we'll come back. Now you can see me and you can see the slide as well. Extension activity. This is a very good activity because it challenges you, okay, and especially those students who wants to do more. Now, can you find any other techniques that the writer uses to create a clear picture of the town? Repetition, maybe. Sometimes repetition is used, okay, to create that vivid image. I want you to find any other literary device that is used. Okay, maybe alliteration, we don't know. I want you to go to the text, read it again, you understand, and try to find out what are other techniques that are used rather than similes, metaphors, and the three powerful words. What are the other techniques used by Charles Dickens? Go for it. Welcome back. This is the plenary activity and this is the last slide as well. So this was a quick lesson and I'm going to explain this in depth when we meet face to face or in the online lesson. I'm going to explain everything that we've been through and that we went through in this video. Okay, so write a description of your town or imaginary town. You can imagine a town and write about it. It can be any name in any town, do you understand? Just write about it using the Hard Times extract as a model. So the town needs to be described in the way that Charles Dickens described his town as well. So try to include at least 3 literary devices. Obviously, I want you to use similes, metaphors, and personifications because those 3 are essential and that's what we will focus on this term. Okay, so I've given you an example down there, but you can use your own examples if you want. All right, you're welcome to do that. So similes, metaphor, personifications. Write a description of your own town. It can be real and it can be imaginary. Okay, so you can do that. And when you finish it, just let me know. When we meet face to face, when we meet in the online lesson, I'm going to ask you about those. Okay, so write them on the notebook. Thanks a lot for being here. See you in the online lesson. Off you go. Cheers.